Well, I am back at my original house. Um, kind of came full circle. Basically, if I were to explain what happened, I think honestly, I'd say I took like a 4 month vacation from everything, and now I'm back. Um, I feel like I've kind of learned being able to handle difficult things, um, more calmly, if that makes sense. I feel like my mind is a lot more calmer, and now I'm starting to gain more tools to um basically handle stress and stuff like that. Like for example, I had a time where I was really tweaking out because of Nor, and I ran a marathon, and um I think it's good to have that because it allows me to express just everything, and but also allows me to get rid of that negativity because instead of keeping that in and just going on forward, which is horrible, I'm actually able to basically disperse that energy and keep my mind corrected because I think oftentimes a lot of my a lot of my problems and mind and energy is just kind of all over the place and just very negative. And I think when I'm able to finally have a clear mind, I'm more able to actually do things that I want. And it's not as hard to actually, do the things I need to do. Like for example, I've been going to the gym straight pretty consistently. I think I took a rest day sometime last week. I can't remember what day. I think it was like maybe Thursday or Friday. Besides that, I've been going every day, and pushing myself a lot harder. But I wouldn't have been able to do that in the past just because of the fact that I had so much clutter in my mind. I can't remember who exactly says it, but they say that your mind is kind of like a garage, and if you're trying to start a project or something like that, you're not going to be able to if you have a very cluttered garage and stuff like that. You're going to be too busy fumbling over trying to find what is what, and then stumbling over your foot over things that don't even really help you. They just kind of take up space, which is not really good. And I think being able to have a clear and concise mind allows you to actually really think about what you're trying to do and really think about what you're really trying to achieve in life. And I feel like that really ties in with myself because I feel like most of my life was been all over the place, not even focused on what I actually want, what I actually am here to do. It's just kind of focused on things that are just temporary, just trying to survive. I know, for example, most of my life, I was chasing women, um, a lot of lust problems, a lot of relationship problems, jealousy, trust issues, stuff like that. And it's always something that I've been, very attached to. And I think that's something that I really now I'm able to actually kind of look at from a bit of a more objective perspective. Whereas, back then I was always just thinking like, oh, this is the only thing that'll make me happy. Relationships are the only thing. And that's not a good way to think. I think I saw a quote that was like, the reason you're looking so much towards relationships to fix your issues is because you lack purpose. And I think that's very true. I think honestly, you probably find that relationship when you're on the grind, focusing on yourself, not concerned about menial stuff, like I found all these people and I think they were uh maybe not exactly, but definitely, reflections of who I am, and uh, no judgment towards the other people, but those are not really people that I surround myself with nowadays. And I think it goes to say that it definitely shows a bit of my growth now. I feel like, in my opinion, at least, I feel like I'm growing, um, which I think is good. But you know, it's just it's a lot. I feel like, and I've always had this kind of, I feel like, victim mentality that, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And even yesterday, I had that happen a little bit where I'm just like, this sucks. This is horrible. And then it was fun. So it's very, off and on. And I think it'll be like that for, until, I don't know, whatever, maybe I won't have that and I'll just stop believing in it, or maybe it'll be like that forever. I honestly don't know. I think I honestly would rather not say because, me trying to put out these assumptions, it's probably not good. And I think these opinions, these beliefs are extremely important because what you believe will manifest in reality. I've always believed in that, but I've never, I guess, utilized it. It was more so just like a thing that I thought, and it's like, you can be a theorist all you want, but until you're actually a practitioner, can you really say for certain that what you say is true? And I think that's kind of what I was doing was, I had all these claims and I had all these philosophies and all these things, and I think it's good. I don't think it's a bad thing, but you have all these things and it's like, okay, what is it for? What does it matter if you don't actually apply any of it? I think I heard a quote that was like, knowledge is just information, wisdom is actually using that information. And I think that's something that I'm starting to tap into a bit more. I'm starting to realize that I do have potential. I'm starting to realize that I can achieve the things that I want to achieve. It just actually takes doing. There's a quote from Chris William. I can't remember his last name, but he does podcasts. But he's like, thinking about the thing, acting like you're gonna do the thing, contemplating doing the thing, wanting to do the thing. All these things are not doing the thing, but doing the thing is the only thing that's actually doing the thing. And I think that's the thing. It's like, I can theorize, I can act, I can pretend, I can, try and feel like I'm doing something, but unless I'm actually doing something, I can't say I've done anything. And I think that's really important. And that actually brings me to another point that I feel like I'm starting to realize the value of actually keeping your word to yourself because, for so long I told myself I would do these things and I told myself that I had potential and all this other stuff. And it's cool and it's nice and it's fun to sell yourself that, but it's also kind of a lie. And for so long I was so unsatisfied. I just was doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different, and that's literally the definition of insanity. And I definitely went insane multiple times because I kept doing the same thing and I kept wondering why nothing was changing. When in reality, you have to create the change. Nobody's gonna save you. Um, nobody's gonna save you, and that's just something that's just reality. You just have to accept that, and this is kind of what it is, man. I mean, you can act and pretend like it doesn't matter and it's not true, but at the end of the day, keep lying to yourself and you'll find out real quick how bad that is. Like for years I was just in my head suffering. And it's not to say that my journey's over, I still have a long way to go, but I'm at a point where I can think a little bit more clear and I'm starting to realize that, me telling all this stuff, me thinking all these things, it's not gonna help me if I'm not doing anything about it because, I can it's the same thing as like the analogy where you bring a horse to water, you can't make the horse drink water. I always tell people all these things and all these philosophies and all these truths about reality that is true generally, but I would never apply to myself, and that's kind of a huge issue because even I've always said this, but you can lie to everybody in the world, but the last person you want to lie to is yourself. Very true. I think you really have to put an importance on keeping your word to yourself and also just understanding that people's words are usually not serious. I mean, for me, I always felt like I was different. I always felt like, I'm the only person who's real. I'm the only person who's mature, whatever. that's ego speaking, because I would do the same things that I always do. I would sometimes not keep my word, sometimes I would do things, and I would think I was a good guy, and I would think, why did that happen to me? Like I'm the one in the right. And and it's like I think the other day I had a video that I was crying in because I was just thinking about like my life, and I was like I had this one girl named M, and we had a relationship, and at the end, and she told me, she was like, you haven't changed whatsoever, and I was like, you're just saying that to hurt me, you know what I mean? And she was like, no, I'm telling you that because that's the truth. And I think she was correct, honestly. I think part of it was a little bit out of spite because I think I don't know. I think she might have had some faults too, but I can't remember. It's in the past. But, it is true that, you say these things and you say that you'll change and you act like you change and you genuinely think that you do change. But, reality and actions say much different. But you try to convince yourself because it's more easier than actually changing. That's the thing. We like to take the path of least resistance. We like to pretend that, we're doing good, and we like to pretend that, we are actually good people. But it's very possible that we're actually really shitty and that we're actually not that good of what we think. Um, and you have to check yourself. I feel like that's a thing that I've always done in my life, but I never took the time to really check everything because it would just be like surface level shit here and there and like problems with somebody else at the time or whatever, and I'll check myself. But you have to go deeper than that. You have to go much deeper than that and actually check the root of who you are and why you're this way and stuff like that. And it took a lot of suffering to get to this point. It took a lot of suffering. um and I think it's whatever you make it. I don't think I want to make all this suffering worthless. Because if that really was the point and that was really what I did, I would just fucking end it, honestly. And I don't think that's really what I'm trying to do. So you have to give purpose to the suffering. You have to give meaning to it all. You have to take it as a lesson. And I mean, that's just kind of what it is. It's like if you suffer endlessly for no point, what's the point? So you just have to give it meaning, even if it's cope. This is the thing too. It's like a lot of people will be like, "Oh, let's cope, let's cope, let's cope." Okay, everything's cope. Religion is cope. Ideologies are cope. Theories are cope. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like everything is cope. So pick your own copes and utilize it to the fullest extent. Make the best of it as you can. Because what is the point of thinking, oh, it's all cope, and then just doing nothing in the rest of your life? That's just kind of like the same as like pessimism and like having a negative look on life. It's like, okay, sure, but is that really going to benefit you? Then you're going to complain about the results that you have, but you're kind of stuck in the cycle of doing negative shit. That doesn't make sense. So you have to give meaning to things, and you have to actually and it's not to say ignore reality. Don't ignore truths. I think you should look for an objective truth in reality, but utilize it and use it to your own advantage. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It's like, yeah, be realistic, and expect things to, happen and not have everything be linear, but also realize that it's not forever. It's very temporary, and you can actually use it to your own benefit to achieve what you're trying to go for. I think, honestly, you know, being in Florida and just kind of, I didn't work, I didn't do anything, I just kind of played games all day and sleeping and stuff like that. And I think it was honestly a good lesson because it kind of taught me what I don't want to be. It taught me a lot of suffering, just stuck in my head and just being trapped and not doing anything in my life. And it taught me, this isn't really what I want. It's not what I want. And it's good, because now I can actually be like, okay, that's horrible. I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to be. So now I'm able to push myself a little bit further during things. Like, for example, I ran 3 miles yesterday. I was supposed to do 3.2, like a 5K, but I used a lot. I was so winded, holy shit. And but I was able to run my fastest time, and I think I did 23 and a half minutes, fastest ever. You know, I always wanted to do like, below 25. I never done it, but now I did it. I wasn't even trying. I was just running, and I was just like, really going all out right there, and I did it. Um, Granted, if I would have, did the last two, three blocks, it probably would have been like 24, almost 25, because I was so just done. I had barely any energy in me, but that's the thing. It's like you can pretend, you can act, you can think like you're doing the thing, but until you actually do the thing, it doesn't matter, man. You can't say that you actually did it. Now, there's definitely things that you can prepare to do, which, for example, you could probably prepare for a marathon. You could probably prepare for getting faster, stuff like that. Um, those are, things that you can't do. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I think my game plan now is I'm gonna start working again, but I think I also want to start learning things and start researching. I've kind of fell off a lot during that time in Florida. I kind of, I guess, collapsed mentally, you know. Um, which, like I said, it's a good thing, but at the time it was really painful. It was really bad, and me describing it is very, very, very light. Like the amount of suffering that was there was so immense that I actually don't really remember. It's just kind of whatever. And the thing that I notice is that ever since that experience and ever since those things, that now things don't phase me as much. For example, I got a speeding citation today. I was cutting up, dude. I was going fucking crazy. But and typically like back then that would have been like fucking devastating. It didn't really affect me. I had a car crash last weekend. It's whatever. I think these are things that I'm gonna need for the future because I think later on I'm gonna have some things that just will require a lot more um focus and calm thinking, and I'm gonna need that for those situations. Because then another thing too is like I like to look at it as like a game. In the beginning you're just learning, you're starting out, you're a noob, you're training, whatever. But if you try to go from you know level 1 to level 100, you're just gonna die instantly. You're not even getting a chance to do anything. So it's really not likely. So you can't really skip levels, or you can, but you can't skip from the very beginning to the very end. That's just not how that works. So in order to get to that, you have to go through the levels. You have to go through the chamber. You have to go through these demons, shadows, whatever you want to call them, and you have to learn how to conquer them and actually achieve what you're trying to do and become ultimately a better person. And I think these all are lessons, these are all experiences that I'm going to need if I want to achieve the things that I want to achieve. Because, for example, if I want to get to, being a millionaire and having all these luxuries in life, I'm not going to get there, instantly if I'm not even the correct person for it. You know what I mean? Like, let's say I'm presented in a situation for it. I'm not going to know the right things to say at the moment because I'm not ready for that. But let's say, 5 years from now, I'm more of a person that I want to be. Ideally the version that I want to be. If I'm head in that situation, I will know what to do. I will know what to say. I will know much more. Whereas, a year, 5 years ago, whatever, it would have been a different story. So I don't know. It's kind of it for right now. That's kind of it for right now. I mean, like today, I didn't really do much. I just kind of went to the mall, stuff like that. I just kind of, I don't know. I kind of realized like I'm not really meant for this. Like going for the mall, socializing, stuff like that. And I always wanted to, but I'm starting to realize it's kind of pointless. It's not very helpful. And I think I just need to focus on myself because I think that will ultimately, drive the needle. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. So, and like I said, it's a lesson. I'm not upset about it. I'm not anything. It is what it is. But I don't know. I think that's all for now. But hopefully that makes sense, and then hopefully I can look back in all these videos and be like, damn, yeah. So